This video made possible by the Global Innovation Exchange. Visit gixnetwork.org to learn more.
Welcome, Reggie. Thank you.
I thought you were going to say it. Reginator, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, you've got some famous lines around your name, and maybe we'll get to those a little bit later. But, you know, Reggie, I think a lot of people know Nintendo in a variety of different ways, and it was really remarkable to see that video, just the recall of the brand and its experiences. But people technically define Nintendo as a multinational consumer electronics and video game company. To you and to the company right now, who is Nintendo? What is Nintendo in 2018?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me here. I get asked the question a lot, right? What is Nintendo? Who is Nintendo? How do you define yourself? From our viewpoint, Nintendo is an entertainment company. Our passion is making our consumers smile. And we do it a variety of different ways today. So we have a large piece of business that's focused on leveraging our intellectual property in a variety of different ways. Whether it's in partnership with Kellogg's to create Super Mario cereal, whether it's a relationship with Universal Studios in a Super Mario world that's being built in their Osaka park right now, whether it's our relationship with Illumination Entertainment, where we're in the process of making a Super Mario movie. So that's one of our three core business pillars. The second is our mobile business. We've launched a variety of different mobile games, and we've got a Mario Kart mobile experience coming by the end of our current fiscal year. We've just launched a brand new intellectual property called Dragalia Lost in mobile. And then thirdly, we've got our dedicated video game business, which is the way most of our consumers interact with us. But these are the three key pillars of our business, all focused on driving really an entertainment positioning, utilizing our intellectual property, and as I said at the outset, making consumers smile.
So, as you said, though, most people think of Nintendo as a video game company. Are you in the process of trying to change that perception through your actions or your words?
Well, again, I believe that consumers know us through our intellectual property, right? The video you shot, having consumers have a memory of their favorite video game. I was just at a conference with 6,000 employees from GameStop. And as I interact with them, they're talking about their favorite experience with our games, our intellectual property. They're showing me their tattoos. You know, it's about our properties. It's about Mario and Zelda. It's about Pokemon, all of these wonderful intellectual properties. And how we leverage these across a variety of entertainment platforms is really how we're looking to grow the company.
Yeah. So Nintendo has been through a fascinating 5 or 6 years here. And if you look at the Nintendo Switch in particular, in a little bit more than a year, it's sold nearly 20 million units. And I know you haven't reported the latest numbers yet, so it could very well be more than that. But there was a period that Nintendo went through 3, 4, 5 years ago where people were doubting the company. And if you look, I actually did some research and looked back to some of the coverage, and I think some of the more favorable words I found were out of touch, foolish, and doomed. And we've been talking a lot about leadership over the course of these last 2 days. When you are faced with that kind of skepticism from the external world, and clearly you've rebounded and changed the perception, but during that time period, how do you lead a massive group of employees and keep them still believing in this larger vision?
So just a few days ago, Nintendo celebrated its 129th birthday. 129 years old. So this is a company that has reinvented itself constantly. You know, many of your speakers are talking about invention of new companies. We reinvent ourselves, you know, every 5, 10 years. We have to in this fast-moving entertainment business. The other piece about Nintendo is we always do things differently. It's in our DNA. Doing what other people does is just not what we believe in. The other aspect to this is that we focus on giving consumers experiences that they haven't even thought of. And so when you're constantly going down this path, you create doubters. You create people who, because we're not taking a traditional path, people say, it must not be right, it won't be effective. So, whether it's been with the Wii back in 2006, whether it's been with our Nintendo 3DS, whether it's now with the Nintendo Switch, our focus is innovating, giving new experiences, and in doing so, driving our business forward. Lastly, this innovation focus doesn't always work, and we're the first to admit that there will always be stumbles along the way. But in the words of one of our presidents, this is Mr. Yamauchi, he said, when you're doing well, don't be excited about that high-flying performance. And when you're doing poorly, don't be saddened. Always have an even keel and always focus on the next big adventure. And that's what we do.
It's fascinating. You know who else likes to espouse that philosophy is Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks. So I think you might have some commonalities there, although clearly you're on much more of a winning streak than they are right now.
Ouch.
So with that, how do you, though, rally the employee base? Were you giving out specific communications to them? What were you trying to do to make sure they stayed inspired to follow that vision? Well,
so we constantly talk to our employees about our mission, our strategies. I hold monthly meetings with all of our senior staff, constantly updating them on our performance, and their peers are sharing the results of all of the different activities. I personally meet with every group of new employees to Nintendo of America, sharing our philosophy, sharing our strategies, helping them understand where we're going. And so we do believe in heavily communicating what we're doing, how we're going about it, and we celebrate our progress, and we also talk about when things don't go right. Yeah. So it is a constant focus on being clear to all of our employees how we're doing. And this is not just a Nintendo of America approach. The same thing happens in Europe. The same thing happens in Japan.
One more question on your leadership style. There is an iconic video of you stepping up to the stage. I believe it might have been at an E3, and you said, "My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass." Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, I'm about taking names, and we're about making games.
I remember, I think I was in the audience for that E3 in the press, and I remember thinking how different it was and how in contrast it was with my perception of Nintendo's culture. Was that a purposeful effort by you to make a statement about the company's attitude? And if so, what went into that?
Well, it was a purposeful statement on the part of the company. So not on my initiative, it really was on the part of the total company. And just to give some perspective, I joined the company in December of 2003. E3 was my first big public opportunity to speak to our community, the fans, the developers, our business partners. And as we were creating that messaging, myself and our global president at the time, Mr. Satoru Iwata, we were in constant communication as to what was the message that we wanted to deliver. And recall at that E3, we launched the Nintendo DS, the best-selling video game system of all time. And we showed the very first footage for a Zelda game, which was to become Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. A piece of video that literally made people cry. And so the entire presentation was focused on presenting, essentially a new Nintendo. A Nintendo focused on delivering innovation, a Nintendo focused on bringing the best of our intellectual property to bear. And so it was an entire presentation focused on the future and where we were looking to go. And so that line encapsulated what we were trying to do. We're going to be bold, we're going to take risks, we're going to push the business forward, and it was fortunate that it resonated so well.
Let's talk about the Switch. As I said, it's been out for a little bit more than a year, about 15 months. Tell us the story of this console. What did you think the first time you saw this?
You know, so it's one of the things that I love about my job. I get to see our systems well in development. I get to see our games well in development. And again, to set the stage, we had launched a system called the Wii U, following on the heels of the Wii, which had sold 100 million units globally. And the Wii U did not have that same level of success. But what we heard from consumers is that the proposition of a tablet that they could experience gameplay, coupled with the ability to play games on the big screen TV, was really compelling. Also, what we heard from gamers around the world is the one point in their gaming experience that they hate is when they have to put the controller down and go do something else, go to work, go to school, what have you. And so that started our thinking around a system that would allow you to play on a big screen TV and then take it out of a dock and take it with you and play whenever, wherever you wanted to. And as I saw the embodiment of that system, and when I first experienced Nintendo Switch, you know, for me it was a moment where the hair on the back of my neck raised, and it was the same way I felt when I first held the Wii remote, and the same way I felt when I first saw the inner workings of a Nintendo DS. And so with that moment, we knew we had a compelling proposition. But what I was actually holding in my hand was a non-working unit. It was something meant to stimulate how it felt in the hand and what the core concept would be. Our engineers had to execute it. Our developers needed to create the compelling content to bring it to life. And we're fortunate that we've been able to do that. And as you say, in our first 12 months, the Nintendo Switch in the US has been the fastest selling system. And our goal is to continue delivering on that momentum.
It's interesting when you put it like that, because it's similar to some startup stories we hear where they try one product and it's maybe 60% of the way there. And it sounds like that's what you're saying about the Wii U. It had the concept of the tablet incorporated with the on-screen experience, but this obviously untethered that tablet and allowed you to take it along. And do you sometimes think of the Wii U as the beta for the Switch?
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say the beta, but certainly without our experiences on the Wii U, we would not have the Nintendo Switch in terms of what we learned, and importantly, what we heard from our consumers. You know, they were telling us, you know, I want to play with this tablet, this gamepad for the Wii U, but as soon as I get more than 30 feet away, it disconnects. So the core concept, something that you could take with you anywhere, anytime, was really compelling. So it was an important step for us to be able to deliver on this proposition.
There's some common themes running through the things that Nintendo has done over the past few years. One of them is the bridge between the on-screen experience in the living room and the rest of the world. And we're going to talk a little bit about Pokemon Go and augmented reality later on. But another is sitting there to your right, the Nintendo Labo. You just came out with your third kit. And I think this may be something that not everybody in the audience knows about. Could you run us through exactly what this is?
Sure. So Nintendo Labo. The concept is a proposition that melds interactive gameplay with physical gameplay. It utilizes DIY kits made of cardboard to create these, what we call Toy-Con controllers, that enable you to manipulate what's going on the TV. In addition, there's an element of this proposition which allows the player to create their own experiences. And so, what I'm holding here is from our latest kit that we call the vehicle kit, and this is the yoke for a plane. Maybe we could get the Boeing team to come and play with this later.
Put that thing in a 787.
But so it's made of cardboard. It uses one of our controllers that allow you to manipulate the experience going on the big screen TV. As you said, we've got 3 different kits. Each utilizes the controllers in a different way, and the screen from the Nintendo Switch in a different way. For this one, it's a piano that the Nintendo Switch slides into this front area that allows you to see what you're doing. The Toy-Con slides into the back, which allows you to then manipulate the device, see what's going on. And so these kits are sparking the imagination of our target consumer that's between 5 and 8 years old. Yep. It's being recognized as one of the hottest toys of the year. And for us, what's really compelling about it is it's something that young kids can do on their own. There are very detailed instructions on how to make these kits. But it's also a great opportunity for parents to interact with their kids and to have fun creating all of these different devices.
My 7-year-old daughter has been doing this. We've only gotten so far as the gas pedal on the Mario Kart wheel there. And it is a process, and it is a fun process. What lessons can people take away from this? Because it's unexpected, it's a bridge between the physical and the digital. Is this where you see tech going more broadly, connecting these experiences in the real world with the digital world?
One of the things about Nintendo is that while we constantly innovate and we push the envelope, by no means are we making statements on behalf of global industries. Yep. For us, what we look to do is to create compelling experiences, typically that have never been done before, and to bring them to life in a way that's compelling and motivating for our consumer. Yeah. And when we do that, we spark the imagination of other developers and other industries, maybe to take what we've done and push it in a different direction. We've done that with controllers. Analog sticks didn't exist until Nintendo executed one in one of our historical devices. Touch screens weren't a common phenomenon until we included it on the Nintendo DS. Accelerometers, gyroscopic controls, these are all things that we've innovated with in order to deliver a great experience, but then they've been adopted in other ways and by other industries. So, we'd love to see more of this tactile experience between interactive experiences and the touch and feel of something in the real space. But for us, it's just another example of doing something creative and doing something different.
Just recently, you released the official version of Switch Online, your online gaming service. Just in preparation for this session, I did spend some time reading a lot of the gaming forums, and clearly the peer-to-peer approach of your online networking is probably one of the most controversial things you've done in this realm. Can you walk us through the Switch Online experience and respond or address some of the concerns that people have about the performance of P2P versus centralized servers?
Mm-hmm. So, Nintendo Switch Online is a service that enables 5 things to happen. So first, certainly it enables connected gameplay on games like Mario Kart or Splatoon. Second, it leverages our legacy content. and we're making Nintendo Entertainment System games available through our Nintendo Switch online service. We launched with 20 games. We just announced 3 more are coming to the system in just a few weeks' time. Thirdly, it connects to an app on your mobile phone, and that's how the voice chat application works. Fourth, there's a cloud save that consumers can participate in. The cloud save is active even for 6 months after you might have terminated the service. And then the fifth element are what we're calling special opportunities. And the one that we just launched with are 2 Nintendo Entertainment style controllers that fit on your Nintendo Switch and can be used to play the legacy content. So a robust series of services that annually costs $20, so substantially lower than our competition. What's interesting is, again, the Nintendo approach is to do things differently. It's a much different suite of services than our competitors offer. And we deliver these experiences in a different way. And so it creates a yin and a yang for our consumers in that they see what we're doing and they're excited about the cloud save and the legacy content, but they wish that we might deliver, for example, voice chat a different way. But for us, what we see is a situation where we know the Nintendo Switch is being played out in the open, out in a park, on a metro bus, whatever the case may be. Yeah. And we believe the easiest way for you to connect and to have a peer-to-peer experience with voice chat is through your mobile phone, because it's always there, it's always connected, it's always with you. So again, what I started this talk with, we focus on innovation, we focus on doing things differently, and that is always going to be our thrust.
It's a great point, because when you started, you framed Nintendo differently than many people think of it, and I think a lot of people in making those kinds of comments about the peer-to-peer functionality and the different features are comparing you directly to PlayStation and Xbox. Do you see Microsoft and Sony as your primary competitors?
So I don't. Think of it this way. We all have 24 hours a day, 1,440 minutes a day. We eat, we sleep, we go to work, or we go to school. All of the rest of that time is entertainment time. That's what I compete for, minute by minute. And that time you spend surfing the web, watching a movie, watching a telecast of a conference. That's all entertainment time that we are competing for minute by minute. So my competitive set is actually much bigger than my direct competitors in Sony and Microsoft. I compete for time. And when I do that, I have to be creative and innovative in order to win that battle for time.
Okay. So some people might say that Nintendo was late to mobile, but that's not true, because if you think about the Game Boy, that's the ultimate mobile experience. You were later than some other game makers to smartphones, and I think this game, Super Mario Run, which was originally released for iOS, was the turning point in that, along with Pokemon Go, which you're obviously involved with through Niantic. Talk to us about Nintendo's approach to smartphones specifically.
So we see our mobile initiatives as a way to bring our intellectual property and our gameplay experiences to a much larger population than the tens or 100 million consumers that own a dedicated gaming system. And so Super Mario Run, as a great example, with this application, which also launched for Android, so it's across both marketplaces, we literally have hundreds of millions of consumers experiencing Mario. We have consumers in markets that we don't distribute our game consoles experiencing Mario. And for us, that is a major initiative. And it allows us to have new consumers fall in love with this great intellectual property. That's our vision for mobile. It's a way for us to deliver our intellectual property in compelling ways to consumers who may not have experienced those properties before, with a belief that they'll come back and maybe buy a Super Mario t-shirt, they may eat that Super Mario cereal, they may buy a Nintendo Switch because of the affiliation and affection that they now have with the IP.
It's interesting because I think the external perception was that Nintendo was protecting its first-party hardware by not releasing games in that era for third-party smartphones, for iOS and Android devices. Was that the case? And if so, did it change, or was this the plan all along?
No, for us, again, what we needed to think through is how could we utilize the smart device marketplace in a way that drove our overall business agenda, the overall business agenda of entertainment and making people smile. So we needed to create unique experiences because we felt a traditional experience that we created for our home system, if simply transplanted to a mobile device, wouldn't work as well. So we needed to create unique experiences. We needed to work through the monetization because we are a company that's driven to make money. And we needed to work through how to be effective on platforms and marketplaces that we ourselves didn't own, i.e. the iOS platform, the Android platform. And that took time. But now that we've created this experience, we have Super Mario Run, literally downloaded hundreds of millions of times. We have Fire Emblem Heroes, which is an intellectual property that by our standards is quite small, but the game is monetizing exceptionally well, and we are broadening that franchise. We launched an Animal Crossing experience, which consumers are loving, and it bodes well as we look to launch an Animal Crossing game on Nintendo Switch coming soon. So for us, it had to be part of a larger strategy versus just one-off executions of mobile games.
Let's talk about augmented and virtual reality. Clearly, you have much more of a stake in augmented reality through your role in Pokemon Go. Virtual reality, not yet. Where do you see those shaking out, to whatever extent you can tell us, in the world of Nintendo?
So, we have experience in this space dating back to the Virtual Boy. With augmented reality, it's something that we built into the Nintendo 3DS, right? A system that is approaching 75 million units sold worldwide. And so this is something that we constantly think about, that we constantly experiment with. Virtual reality, what we've said is it's technology that we're looking at, but in the end it has to be fun, because that is our mission, that is what we do, arguably better than anyone else. And so, nothing to announce here on this stage, but these are going to be technologies that we'll continue to experiment with, and as we look to create new and compelling experiences, we bring them to life. You mentioned Pokemon Go,
yeah.
The utilization of the knowledge that Niantic had in geolocation capabilities, one of the world's most powerful intellectual properties in Pokemon, and it's created an experience that is incredibly compelling.
What did you learn from how that took off? Because that was a marketer's dream. It was viral. Were there any lessons that you took from that maybe you could replicate for success later?
Well, in the end, it was a unique product. The proposition was compelling. You talk to Pokemon users, and what do they say? Boy, I wish I could play Pokemon in real life, right? And
yeah.
So the augmented reality capability of making it seem that one of these creatures was right near you, right there to be captured, was magical. And so, it's a product that the teams involved have done incredibly well. For us, it's just continuation of the lessons we know about innovation, about compelling propositions, and delivering something to our consumer base that they love and will tell other people about it and how that can grow over time.
You alluded to this at the beginning, but one of the most fascinating things on the horizon is the expansion of the brand through the relationship with Universal. What can we expect? And I know there's already an experience in one park, in parks and in theaters with the Nintendo brand.
So what I can tell you is this. Whether it's Universal Studios in the theme park space, whether it's Illumination Entertainment in the movie space, our focus was partnering with best-in-class companies. In doing so, we want to leverage what we do best, which is the creation and management of our intellectual property, and leverage that with what these other companies do best, whether it's in creating a theme park experience that is second to none, or telling stories through video entertainment, which is what Illumination does so well. I can tell you that our creators are heavily involved in these projects, so that what will be the result are true experiences that tie back to the intellectual property. The first park with Universal Studios will open in Osaka, and it's targeted to open before the Olympics in Tokyo in 2020. And the development with Illumination is well underway. And so these are important projects for us as we look to drive our intellectual properties forward.
Is there a risk? I recognize it's important to spread the brand and increase brand awareness. Is there a risk in diluting the focus of the company?
Well, but that's always a risk when you look at these types of additional opportunities. But again, what I could tell you is that the Nintendo executives that are involved in this are limited. Oftentimes it's Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto himself, who is not as involved in the day-to-day development of our games. That's being led by Mr. Takahashi at our Kyoto Development Center. And so we've got the right level of resources against these initiatives to make sure that they're executed brilliantly, but that we continue with the game development work that is so critical to our performance.
Reggie, this has been fantastic. Is there any message you'd want to leave the crowd with here?
So the message that I would leave for this group, we're a local company out in Redmond. We are a company that, as I've said repeatedly, is focused on innovation, focused on reinvention, focused on doing things that are new and different. And from that standpoint, we're always looking to work with innovative partners that share our mindset. And as a shameless plug, we're always looking for great people.
Oh, everybody's hiring, Reggie. Regie Fils-Aimé, thank you very much for being at the GeekWire Summit.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
All right, thank you. The Reginator, thank you for being here at the GeekWire Summit.